SNK vs Capcom SVC Chaos is triggering people. Just a few days ago, we would receive a surprise stealth drop-in on modern hardware of the underrated cult classic crossover game known as SVC Chaos. While I've already uploaded an in-depth video on the history of this unique game and its unexpected return, today I felt that I needed to talk about it again, due to the controversy that has surfaced around it. So, with that said, join me as we not only analyse what everyone is complaining about, but equally as importantly, whether they have valid points or not. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Big Daddy Top Hat here. This is why SNK vs Capcom SVC Chaos is causing outrage. Yeah! When it comes to fighting games, things have certainly been interesting lately, particularly on the SNK and Capcom fronts. The Marvel vs Capcom collection has been revealed to be coming, a new Fatal Fury is in the works, and just this week we saw trailer footage of Terry Bogard in Street Fighter 6 for the first time. So the return of SVC Chaos is just a part of this new chapter in fighting game history. As for this lesser celebrated title, from what I can tell at least, the modern re-release is essentially the original game with some cool new features, such as rollback netcode, online lobbies, an art gallery, and a hitbox viewer. So what's not to love, right? Well, according to many online commentators, and even some people in my very own YouTube comment section, heavy-handed censorship that completely destroys the integrity of the Western release of the game has taken place. So let's dig straight into looking at what's making so many people so upset.
I'd like to make a complaint, please.
Don't care.
The first complaint I would like to draw your attention to is differences between the Japanese and American trailers for the game. While they both might look very similar at first, it's the piece of artwork shown at the very end that is causing individuals to get their knickers in a twist. Now here is where it gets amusing. If we spot the difference between the two pieces of promotional artwork, two big differences quickly become apparent. And when I say two big differences, yes, I am talking about sets of breasts.
Alright, don't get coarse.
If you look closely at the Western version, Mai Shiranori's cleavage has been drawn differently and covered over, whereas with the Japanese artwork, it has instead been drawn very pronounced. Elsewhere, the scantily clad Athena has also been moved downwards, removing her cleavage out of shot too. I can see why many would find this disappointing, considering that sprite-based fighters have traditionally always been full of beautiful women with beautiful assets. Who could forget the nylon-clad legs of Chun-Li, or the allure of Morrigan? It pleases me to no end that many of these classic characters are receiving 2020's love. We've almost been spoilt with some of the goodness that's currently on offer. For example, the simply breathtaking Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection that contains 16 of the sprite-based Street Fighter games in a single compilation. That's not all though, as it was only 2022 that they gave us the Capcom Fighting Collection, a single purchase containing the Darkstalkers games, Cyberbots, and more, and even Red Earth, a hidden gem of a Capcom arcade fighter that was previously lost to the arcades of the 90s. I can get you up to 75% off both of these huge collections simply by using my affiliate link via the pinned comments. Or if more modern fighters are for you, don't worry, thousands of deals can be accessed, such as 75% off of Street Fighter 6 and even a massive discount on a Year 2 Ultimate Pass, giving you M. Bison and soon those sweet SNK characters. Happy shopping. Back on the subject of the controversial SVC Chaos artwork, these differences have of course led to widespread outpouring of anger and displeasure that the people behind the game would dare market the game differently depending on location, strongly feeling that SNK are bending the knee and giving in to what they refer to as the woke agenda. While I'm certainly not one to argue against the fact that it is apparent that brands are adopting DEI policies to cater to the so-called modern audience, I do feel the gaming public does need to do a little introspection at points and realise not everything is a black and white culture war of left versus right, and sometimes certain styles of marketing work better within different parts of the world. Let's be very honest here, the mass American public have always been very squeamish when it comes to anything to do with cleavage. with, on the whole, from an outsider looking in's perspective at least, Americans appear to be a lot more afraid of looking at women's breasts than most of us Chad Europeans. In fact, I've noticed a trend of a lot of the online commentator sorts directly blaming the censorship of games today purely on the rainbow-haired, nose-pierced contingent of the audience. But let's be honest, cleavage censorship in American gaming has been rife for as long as the medium has existed, and what all the people bashing the game are failing to disclose is that the modern version of the game actually features significantly less censorship than the original American release of the title, which leads me to the conclusion that they either have little awareness of gaming history, or they are simply omitting facts as they do not support the narrative they are promoting on their channels. If you were to play SVC Chaos in American arcades back in the day, there is at least two huge key differences to the version of the game that could be played on consoles elsewhere. Mai Shiranui's glorious jiggle physics are completely absent from the game, as I guess many would have considered it incredibly harsh to traumatise American arcade goers with two very big issues. Speaking of this blanket blaming of all censorship purely on the modern audience, from my experience taking part in the running of two YouTube channels, it isn't so-called progressives who seem to like complaining about cleavage all the time. Sure, the blue-haired weirdos and androgynous sorts can be very annoying and aggressive in their own rights. Trust me, I know this. I used to use Twitter. But conservatives and religious sorts are just as bad, if not worse, regarding calls for censorship. So to blame just one side for this ongoing problem is incredibly biased and simply disingenuous. I utterly despise the extremes on both sides, which leads to problems like a lack of boobage. Take my wife, Lady Decade's YouTube channel for example. She regularly cosplays as various famous gaming characters, including Mai Shiranui in the past, Chun-Li, Tifa, Morrigan, and more. Like myself, she often gets abused by both sides, pretty much like most people on the internet, but here's the interesting part. Usually, when being attacked by the radical left, it's for expressing so-called wrongthink. This breed of utter loser despises and attempts to shout down anyone who doesn't share exactly the same views and opinions as they do. We hate these people, but they aren't the only demographic who try to push us in certain direction. Wokies are no doubt very irritating, but one thing from our experience at least they are not guilty of is audaciously trying to tell other people how they should be presenting themselves. Conservatives and religious sorts often comment all sorts of peculiar things, such as insisting she needs to change the way she dresses, as they find her content very good, but according to some of them, they can't watch her content if their wife or children are around. They are that prude. These utter fuddy-duddies moaning about women's clothing are not woke, and they don't just complain about slightly revealing Halloween costumes either. They even whinge about her wearing V-neck tops. Even though we modelled her online image on British morning television presenters like Susanna Reid. Our attitude has always been, if our presentation style is good enough for daytime television, it is 100% suitable for YouTube. But many viewers are too prude to even be able to cope with seeing her in normal day-to-day clothing. So it seems you can't win with religious extremist sorts. Bearing in mind there is a large contingent of people in the United States who seem so afraid of breasts compared to most Western cultures, I see it as perfectly sensible and valid that SNK would choose to not have cleavage prominent on the promotional artwork, in case the wrong person looks at it and gets all offended. Fortunately though, all of Mai's jiggly glory is in the game, which couldn't be said regarding the first time the game hit American arcades, so American men of culture can now rejoice in this fact. The issue regarding the female form is not the only controversy though that has surfaced around the game, as people are also annoyed about a disclaimer that has been placed at the start of the title, a slightly more grounded grievance in my opinion. The wording that has angered everyone states, "This product aims to faithfully recreate the content of the original game at the time of its release in 2003. Therefore, the content of this game does not represent the ideals of our company. but is provided as is, respecting the original intent of the game and is not intended to promote or attack any particular ideology or group. Of course, in one instance this is great, as SNK are outright telling us that they have not altered the original game's main content, but on the other hand, I can see why people do not like it, as a message telling you that a game you like is deemed offensive by the IP holder isn't the most tactful way to make your long-term fans feel appreciated and respected. In fact, I would go as far to say that this message itself will probably offend and outrage more people than any content that can be found in the game itself. And writing off people from 2003 as these primitive cavemen sorts who hold all the wrong values is also incredibly wrong and disrespectful to all of our past selves. Placing such a warning on a game is sadly a form of historical revisionism, and adding this message to the start of a game instantly alters the way the content is perceived and understood, distorting historical context and significance. I understand why so many people would find this message to be off-putting, with it unnecessarily coddling players. This self-censorship of artistic expression is a slippery slope where increasing sensitivity to potentially offensive content could limit the diversity of ideas. Gamers should be able to take responsibility for their own reactions and emotional responses, not told how they should feel about certain themes by SNK or anyone else for that matter. Adding trigger warnings like this imposes contemporary values and sensibilities on past works, which can lead to anachronistic interpretations, which isn't the morally right thing to do, in my opinion. It's mildly triggering. However, as annoying and as unnecessary as I believe this all to be, at least when we get past the disclaimer, we get the true game. After all, it could have been much worse with them choosing to alter the main content in the game, instead with true historical revisionism, like in the case with some other games. All in all though, I do think it's a bit of a stretch to be as angry about the details as some claim to be. Yes, the disclaimer is annoying and certainly in line with the modern audience sensibilities BS, but I think blaming the regional differences regarding cleavage purely on progressivism is a bit of a reach considering how long cleavage has been censored in gaming. So what can we draw from all of this? I guess that extremists on both sides are censorship hungry dicks, and commentators on both sides will cast the opposition as villains to push their agendas and ultimately use each of these occurrences as opportunities to generate clicks. I must admit, I respect the hustle, but I refuse to believe that removing cleavage from Western games is a problem that has only come about from the modern left. I didn't see anyone complaining about liberals, for example, when SVC Chaos originally hit American arcades. Did they cause my jiggle physics to be removed? I'm seriously doubtful of that. One thing's for sure, there are two sides to every coin, or in this case, two cups to every bra. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget I can get you up to 90% off of thousands of great games using my affiliate link. And if you are yet to check it out, subscribe to my wife's channel, Lady Decade, for more fighting game goodness. Or if you simply want to learn about the epic history of SVC Chaos, check out my video from earlier this week. Cheerio!